Hello, yes, that's right. It's Joe here live for Joyrider TV with some very interesting Q&A topics that are on the cards for you today. On the cards today, we're going to be talking about what is the, let's call it the headline topic of how to determine how much main sheet tension you need to get. This is going to be kind of related to the Hobie 16, but I think we should also talk about the other style of boats, like the F18 style of boats as well on that topic. We're also going to be talking about, this is just from the preloaded questions, trying to lift the hull in light winds. Is it fast? Ooh. And then another one we've got in the preloaders is just regarding the downhaul system for the F18 style boats. We're just going to have a look at that. And then we're going to be looking at how to go about tightening the trampoline successfully if you are not packing the big guns. So if you haven't quite got as much power as like if you're perhaps a youth sailor or a female sailor who perhaps you just don't have quite as much power as the large gentleman. Is that a PC way of putting it? Can we do that? It's already done. It's already out there. So hello to everybody who's tuning in live, and hello to everybody who is tuning in later. So we're just going to kick off with topic number one. And this is raised by a question from Matt, who says, how much main sheet tension should I have to pull when sheeting in block to block? So when we're talking block to block, this is a Hobie 16 or Hobie 14 situation that we're talking about. Let's just, I'm not going to continue with the question at this stage, going to just talk about this concept of sheeting block to block. I've drawn a little picture using this diagram here. So on a Hobie 16, it is possible to get the blocks so that they're touching, and that is what we're calling block to block, and that is maximum main sheet tension. So firstly, with sheeting block to block, when should you be doing it? I'll tell you when. The only time you should be looking to sheet in block to block is in double trapezing conditions. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to be double trapezing. Like if you're not comfortable helming on the trapeze, or if your boat doesn't have two trapeze wires on each side, then you could be sitting on the trampoline with the crew out on the trapeze and getting it block to block, so cranked in as tight as it will possibly go. But if the wind isn't strong enough to double trapeze and you're putting the main sheet blocks all the way together, then there's a strong chance you're going to be oversheeting the mainsail, and you might even be doing what we'd call hooking the leech. So if let's put this way round. So if this is our mainsail, can we see this? Maybe if it's, no, it's not so good. All right. Didn't think this through really. So, all right, I've got a white cable, that'll do. So if this is our mainsail, what we never want to have with the mainsail is for the back edge, the leech of the mainsail, to be further to windward than the center line of the boat. That is what we call hooking the leech. So even if it's like this, the leech is still further to windward than the center line of the boat. So that would be too much main sheet tension. You can look at this on land. If you pull your main sheet in on the land, traveler in the center, and look from behind, see if the leech comes across the center line of the boat like this. If it does, that's too much. So that would mean we're using too much main sheet tension. So we should just ease out a little bit in that situation. Now, the reason that we can sheet in harder when the wind's strong enough to double trapeze is because there's more pressure from the wind in the sail, which is opening the sail up, which means when we sheet in, we can sheet in more and the leech won't cross the center line because the pressure from the wind is blowing it open. There we go. So that is just a quick, when would you want to actually sheet it block to block? When the wind is stronger, that is when. In lighter winds, we really need to focus on not oversheeting the mainsail, because the thing that is going to kill your boat speed more than anything else is having the sails oversheeted, sails in too tight. It's going to kill your boat speed. If you're a bit more new to the game and you're like, how do I determine while I'm sailing if the sail is oversheeted? This goes for all types of boat. On the mainsail, you are going to have telltales in the body of the sail. Port is left. So if we're on this side of the boat, this is like a close-up of, we're going to have the telltales here. So we're going to have two telltales, green for starboard, which would be the windward side of the sail, port, red for the port side, which we can see through the sail. So there we are. And if both are flying straight back like this, what that means is look at the sail from the top. It means port side, starboard side, like this. And that means that we've got good airflow, over both sides of the sail like this. And that is the ideal. So if the telltale on the leeward side of the sail, the one you can see through the sail, if that isn't flying straight back, that's the one we've really got to look after. So if at any point that telltale, same as on the jib, isn't flying straight back, it means either the sail's in too tight, or if we're sailing on an upwind course, we're not sailing close enough to the wind. So wind's coming down the board like this. If we're sailing more like this direction for the wind, and we've got the sails sheeted in tight like we're going upwind, then we're going to have this situation where the outside telltale isn't flying straight back, and what will happen is it will start off by lifting, and then it might just start going round and round. You might not be able to see it, but it won't be flying straight back. And if that telltale ever is not flying straight back, you really need to do something about it, because that is really going to kill your speed. And the reason it's not flying straight back, actually this diagram is sort of backwards, so it'll be the green one on this diagram. It's because we've got the sail sheeted in too much, which means, in fact, let's draw a new one over here. So if the sail sheeted in too much, the wind, what's gonna happen? I'm having to think about this a little bit. If it's in too much, the wind isn't going to connect with that side of the sail, so it's going to be all separated, and we're not going to be actually getting any wind. And if it's in too much, then on this side of the sail, we're going to have this really bad turbulent airflow, because the wind is going to be hitting the sail more like this, rather than having this nice smooth flow of wind over either side of the sail. So that is why having the sails in too tight is really going to slow you down. you know, there might be a time when you want to slow down. Sheeting the sails in too tight might be what you need to do. But there you go. All right. So there's a bit of background information onto the question. And I would say that the answer to Matt's question is kind of like an answer, but what it's actually going to do is raise more questions. Yes. So continuing Matt's question, I gather this might be a function of how flat you want the leech of the mainsail to be. Is this true? Yes. So the more tension we put on the main sheet, it's going to push, it's going to pull down on the leech of the sail. And the tighter we pull the main sheet, the more we're tightening up the leech of the sail. Now, having a tight leech on your mainsail, I did make some notes here actually, is going to really improve your pointing. But the tighter you have the leech of your mainsail, the more sort of on the knife edge you're going to be, the more critical it's going to be, the more at risk you're going to be of oversheeting. And this is what we'd call stalling the airflow. And stalling the airflow, if you've got the leech absolutely bang on at the right tension. So that's why usually we don't have it as tight as possible, even if the telltales are flying. Usually have it just eased slightly. Another great tool that you can have on your mainsail, which is definitely something that all of the F-18 and similar, any boat with a slightly higher aspect rig would have, is leech telltales, where you'd have, apologies for those of you who've been many times before to the Q&A, we've talked about this before, but we're talking about it again. You'd have flying off the back edge of the sail, the leech. This is not to scale, they're a bit longer than they would be. Maybe 4 leech telltales. And what we're looking for, leech telltales are very good because what they give us, which is better than these telltales, is quick reference. When you glance at your sail, you'll see your leech telltales immediately. So it doesn't take as much time to see what's going on. And if we've got 4 leech telltales, what we're looking for is the last one, the bottom one, just to be kind of hooking around the back of the sail. Because on our diagram here, with the leech telltales, if we've got a good even flow of wind over the back of the sail, the leech telltales only tell you that you're not oversheeted. So if we've got a good flow of air, then we'll see our leech telltale off the back of the sail. But if it's in a little bit too much, we're going to have another picture. Where should we put this one? Down here. Yeah. If we've got the sail in a little bit too much, then what at any of these points, so it doesn't, if it's in too tight down here, it doesn't mean it's going to be in too tight at the top, because the higher up the sail that we go, the more open it's going to be because of the actual mechanics of the distance from that part of the sail to the actual main sheet, which is pulling it in. So the further we go away from the main sheet, the more the sail is naturally going to open. So this is for all types of catamaran. So if we've got it in too tight, here's the wind. It's going to kind of separate from the sail at the lower point. So this is the mast here. And then on the inside, we are going to get a bit of turbulence here, depending on how oversheeted it is. And then when the wind comes here, because it's oversheeted, it's going to go like that when it gets to the leech, which means your leech telltale will be getting blown away from the sail. So you won't, so sitting on the windward side, you won't be able to see it. So if we've got 4 leech telltales, we're looking for that bottom one just going round the back of the sail, and that's an acceptable amount of oversheeting. You may say, that doesn't seem to be scientifically very accurate. Well, no, but it's as good as we can get by just using the leech telltales, in my opinion. So there we go. But we definitely don't want to see them all disappear, because that means the wholesale is oversheeted like this, and we're going to lose all of our ability to perform. All right, so there we go. What else is on Matt's question? The other day, I sailed another person's Hobie 16, and it took both hands and some leg muscle as well to pull the main sheet block to block. This was much more effort than on my boat. Are there any rules for when I should rig my boat so it takes more or less effort to pull the main sheet block to block? All right, we're going in deep now, Matt. So factors which affect the ease of getting the main sheet, let's say the main sheet into its maximum. So this might be, you know, if you're sailing a Hobie 18, you're not going to get it block to block, but these factors will be the same for all types of boat. First one is the mast rake. So if your mast is raked further back, then what that's going to do is reduce the space between the boom and the back beam where the main sheet is anchored, meaning that meaning if there's less space there, it's going to be much easier getting the blocks together. So that is factor number one. And so very quickly, mast rake on a Hobie 16 or 14 or similar, the mast rake is governed on your shroud setting, which is, it's a kind of backwards way of setting it, but your shroud settings. So the lower down you have your shrouds, the more mast rake you're going to have. Higher up, less mast rake. On a boat like Tornado, your mast rake, or F18, Hobie 18, those sort of boats where we sail with the rig tight, your mast rake is governed by your forestay adjustment. So if you want more mast rake, you put your forestay on a higher up hole on the adjuster here. So you might have, not to scale, a stay adjuster like this. And the higher up you put your forestay into the holes here, this is not on the Hobie 16, just going to point that out, then we're going to have more mast rake, which is going to make it easier to get the main sheet into its fullest extent. Yes. But so mast rake is going to have an effect on there. Now, only on the Hobie 16 and those types of boat. This will be the same for the Dart 18, actually. Thanks very much to Dave for your super sticker or super chat or whatever that's called. You will see at the bottom of the live chat, there's something that looks like a dollar bill. If you click on that, you can, if you think this is valuable information, then slap it in there, because this information is solid gold, even if you don't think so. It is, believe me. Yes. So where were we? Yeah, Hobie 16 and the Dart 18 are quite similar in that you set the mast rake on the shrouds and then the rig tension on the forestay or the jib tension. So so rig tension would be the next thing that affects our ability to sheet in block to block. So if we've got less rig tension, the mast's going to come further back and it's going to be easier to get those main sheet blocks together. So it's an interesting point, is two ways that we could have the mast at the same angle. So if we wanted the mast at this angle, two ways that we could set it. One would be to have let's think about this. This is back to the Hobie 16. One would be to have the shrouds lower down, but with more rig tension. Now, what that is going to do, so shrouds lower down, more rig tension. So let's say on the shrouds, we've put them on the bottom stay adjuster, but we're cranking on as much rig tension as possible. Then what that is going to do is going to make it so if we look at the mast from the back, the mast is going to be much more upright, which is going to give us a much straighter leach, which is going to make the boat that straighter leach. What is that going to do? It's going to give us a bit more power and a bit better windward performance. There's very much two different methods of setting up the boat in this respect. The other way would be to have the shrouds higher up. Let's say they're in the third or fourth hole, but with less rig tension. The mast will end up at the same angle, let's say, but if we look from behind, so here are the holes, the mast there, maybe a bit of an exaggeration, is going to be leaning over more to leeward. And what that is good for is if we're getting very much overpowered, because when we're overpowered, if the mast's leaning to leeward, we're going to start helping to exhaust the airflow out of the leach of the mainsail, and we're going to lose power that way. So that's why on the boats which don't have the sophisticated means of losing power, like the Hobie 16, the Dart 18, a looser rig is going to help to allow you to deal with the stronger wind, but still keep a good sail shape. There we go. Hope everyone's enjoying this topic. I do like the new cup. I have to say, it hasn't left my side since I've got it. I know if you're in America, you've probably got 5 cups like that already, but this is my first one and I like it. Thank you very much. Thanks to Office Hands Dave for putting me on to this way of life. It's not a cup, it's a way of life. Available at totaljoyrider.com and available to customize, like I've customized this one, Bad Boy 95, and all the sponsors' logos. Oh yeah. Nice. Yeah, so the other thing that might affect your ability to get the sail block to block is actually the cut of the sail. Not all, this is, it is the same for all types of boat, but very much a Hobie 16 thing. It depends greatly on the vintage, the age of the mainsail that you're using. Because back in the early days, like I would say, this is a bit of a guess, but I would say pre-1985, the trend with the Hobie 16 was to sail with the mast very much upright, but compared to how we have them these days. And so because the mast was rigged more upright, the sail might have a slightly longer leach because the mast's more upright. Whereas the more modern style is to sail with more mast rake. So perhaps the leach of the mainsail is slightly shorter, so if you put an older sail or on your old Hobie 16, if you try sailing with the amount of mast rake that the modern 16s are sailing with, you might find that it's super easy to get it block to block because the actual leach of the sail is longer, which means your boom's going to sit lower, which means there's going to be less space here. Maybe. Yeah, there we go. What else? I made notes on this topic, by the way. I did some preparation. Thought it was a good idea. What else have I got on here? Blah, blah. All right. So we've said the tight leech is very good for the pointing ability, and it does give you a bit more control as well, because if we have the leech too loose, then what might happen is if we haven't got any tension in the leech of the mainsail at all, then the sail is just going to be allowed. This is more for strong wind. The sail's just going to be allowed to do absolutely what it wants. By the way, thanks very much to CA Marks for your super sticker or super chat. I appreciate it greatly. It will all go to a very good cause. And in fact, the good cause that everything is going to at the moment, there's two good causes. One is I have actually just bought a new camera, which I'm waiting for. So this is the sort of thing that like your super chat donations going towards. The other good cause that's on at the moment is if you scroll to the top of the live chat or have a look in the description, is I've set up a fundraiser to help pay for going to the Tornado World Championships in July. Back to the point. Yeah, thanks very much, CA Marks. Very good. I'll come on to your oh, in fact, can't stick around, but saw you were live and thought I'd jump in. And thank you for all the Hobie gold you put out on the interwebs. Legend. Thanks, man. Really, really appreciate that. That's nice. Yes. Where were we? Oh, yeah. So if the leech of the sail is too loose, then we really are at the will of the gods a bit, where it's just the pressure, the wind, the sail is going to be moving as it wants to if you haven't got enough tension in your main sheet, which is why when you see me doing the speed run videos, I'm constantly cranking the main sheet in whenever possible, just to stop from getting to that point where the sail is just a bit out of control. Now, if we've got a bit of twist is what another way of saying a looser leech. Now, the twist is very good for acceleration. So when do we want twist? We definitely want twist when we're sailing downwind, because we're constantly trying to accelerate as much as we can out of every gust that comes along. But when we're doing a speed run, we don't want quite as much twist. Now, the way that we're getting the main sheet block to block on those speed runs is we're sailing with the mast further back, which in those situations we're doing by loosening the rig tension. Thanks very much to Scott, who's dropping it in the slot with a super sticker. Thanks very much. Much appreciated. I think when the new camera arrives, I'll make a unboxing video of the camera, because to me, it's a big day, because I've been using the 8. All right, we're changing tack here. Yeah, we're pretty much finished there. On if anybody's got any questions related to what I was just talking about, if you're here live, put it in the live chat. If you're watching later, put it in the comments and we'll talk about it. But that is pretty much, I'm going to wrap that up. That's 28 minutes on one topic, which is quite a lot. So this is the GoPro Hero 8 that I've been using. It's got to be at least 4 years now. I've been using this camera. It's a bit beaten up. But my biggest problem with this camera, maybe you can help, is I can't find anywhere on the internet a original battery. And God, and that is the problem. What happens with these batteries is when they get hot, they swell, which means it feels like there is a risk that the battery might just give up inside the camera, which would destroy the camera. Or at best, I suppose, you just can't get the battery out to charge the camera using a charger, rather than just plugging the camera in to a USB C cable there. And so if you can find on the internet where it is that you live, GoPro original Hero 8 batteries, let me know and I'll order some from where you are. Don't know how to ship it from Australia, but we'll see. Thanks very much. Why you can't get these? I think GoPro is trying to make you buy a new camera, and it worked because I've ordered one. There we go. So thanks for your donations to help with that. Okay, I'm going to check in with everybody who's checking in. It's pretty hot in Greece these days, I tell you. I've got the fan on in Studio One because it is hot. It must be over 30 degrees most days. I did have, by the way, oh, yes. Oh, with the tornado funding, there's like little kind of not incentives, but like if you donate a certain amount to the cause, there's little perks that you might get. And I sailed today with Phil, who made a donation, and we went out on an absolutely champagne joyride on the 16 and put in a big speed. I wouldn't say, as far as the videos have gone, not a showstopper, but it was a big speed. So that was a lot of fun. I had a camera rolling. It's not going to be a sort of traditional Joyrider TV video, but I think I'm going to release the video just because it was good. Put the speedo on there and stuff. Anyway, checking in. We've got Joshua on board. Joshua is an oversheeter. I've added leech telltales for the Hobie 20 North Americans next week. One of my goals is not to oversheet. Yeah, so yeah, the Hobie 20 North Americans, I've heard it's going to be the biggest fleet for a long time of Hobie 20s. So that is really going to be a great event to watch. If you're not, I think it'd be a good event I'm sure there'll be a Hobie 20 group on Facebook. And perhaps if you're allowed to sign up to that group so that you can follow the progress of the event, I would absolutely love to be at that event, because we used to have some Hobie 20s here in Greece, and they are definitely fast boats. Very nice. But I think they compare most to in Europe these days would be like the Hurricane 5.9 kind of thing with the size of the boat. That's going to be cool. One of the goals is not to oversheet. Yeah, so definitely these leech telltales are your friend, big time. Upwind and downwind. If you haven't got enough leech telltales, oh, you just said you've added some, yeah. Take a little bit more time preparing your boat, because if you've stuck them on yourself, which most people do, there is always a chance that you might lose one from time to time. So have a bit of time available just to make sure you have got a full quiver of leech telltales. I wouldn't go more than 4 personally, because it just might make you start overthinking things if you've got 2 disappearing at the bottom or something. So, and if you find that they're not disappearing in the right order, then this is going to come down to, I would say, largely your batten tension, that maybe, or the batten stiffness as well. So maybe if you've got battens which are too stiff in the top, too soft in the top, which means they'll bend more, perhaps you might start having the top of the sail hooking a bit earlier. There we go. All right, we've got Benny on board in Sweden, where it is raining. Sorry to hear that, but good for the grapes, I've heard. All right, we've got channel member Jens on board. Hello, Jens. Are you going to be visiting us in sunny, hot Vasiliki at some time soon? Let us know. Right, Kevin's on board. Hello, Kevin, in Illinois. 79 degrees, 18 miles an hour wind. A good day to call in sick. Yeah, very nice. All right, Mr. Tony KP in Ebeltoft, Denmark. Wishing everyone a great weekend. Leland Lee is with us in Clearwater, Florida, as always. Very good. Montana Help is with us and says, greetings from Montana, USA. Learning to sail through your channel. Good stuff. I hope it's all working out. I'm new to sailing and I bought a used Hobie Getaway. How tight should the shrouds be for a beginner? The shrouds should be the same tension for a beginner as they would be for an experienced sailor, I would say. And yeah, on a boat like a Getaway, how do you quantify the tension in the shrouds? I would say you want to have it not as tight as it will go. But so when you're sailing upwind, your leeward shroud, the one that's not supporting the mast at that time, it should be allowed just to go slightly slack. If it's really slack, that's too loose. Yeah, difficult to actually put a mark on it, because with a boat like a Getaway, going for something like a loose gauge would be a bit excessive. But if you're new to sailing, you're going to be out more in lighter winds. So I would say have the mast almost as tight as you can get it, but make sure the mast is free to rotate. You know when the mast's too tight, two ways. One way is that the mast won't rotate. And the other way that you know it's too tight is you can actually do what's called inverting the mast. Now, you're going to have to pull pretty hard to invert the mast. But when we invert the mast, what is actually happening, this is going to be an exaggeration, is it starts bending forwards like that, which is pretty nasty. So the most that you want to do, if you're tightening the rig by pulling down the shrouds, the way to go about doing that is to get, if you've got somebody who is, let's say, about 200 pounds, if you're in America, what's 200 pounds? 200 pounds is 0.89 long tons, of course. Thank you. 90 kilos. Yeah, about bit 200 pounds, maybe a little bit more. And if you get your 200-pound friend or a little bit more to pull on the trapeze wire, and while they're pulling, so hold on, we're doing this. We're going in. Hope everyone's finished taking notes from those diagrams. Very good diagrams, I thought. Good start. So if this is the boat, get your friend with the boat on the land to pull on the trapeze wire, kind of here on the side that you're tightening. And while they're pulling on the trapeze wire, disconnect the shroud. Tell them not to let go. That's important. Disconnect the shroud and move the shroud adjuster, not as far as you can, but one hole up from as far as you can. Because the reason we're not going as far as you can, because we're going to have to do the same thing on the other side. And if we've over tightened this one, there's no chance we're going to be able to tighten this one to the same amount. So there we go. So get your 200-pound friend on the trapeze wire. I'd probably look for about, 200 pounds is good. In fact, you can check out a video I made a while ago, which was called something along the lines of getting the rig tension right without a gauge. Good video. Shroud goes down. Once you've done one shroud, move to the other side, do it again. Very nice. You can, if you haven't got a friend to use, you can do it using a Mainsheet and a trapeze wire in your Mainsheet. So if that's the top of your boat, there's the mast, there's your Mainsheet. Attach your Mainsheet to the trapeze wire on that side of the boat, and then if we look from above, there's the back beam. What we want to do is crank the Mainsheet in. It will naturally be in the middle, but what we want to do is pull it over to the side. So you want to pull it in fairly tight and then pull the traveler out to the side. So the best way you can do this is to actually take the Mainsheet once you've pulled it in and maybe tie it around the hull, or if there's a tree, tie it around the tree. Tree is better. Tie it around your car. There we go. Traveler over here, that will then allow this shroud to go, and then you can shroud. A good idea, and I'm going to keep doing this now, is I did a video recently about extra shroud security for when you want to loosen or tighten your rig. And what that is doing, if you haven't seen it, if this is the chain plate, and then this is your shroud coming down here, and there's the eye on the shroud going up like that, is traditionally you would have one clevis pin that would go in there to hold it, but the thinking now is to put a second clevis pin in the next one above, and that means if you want to tighten it, you could take that one out, pull the tension on, leave that one in, move the shroud down, put the pin in the next hole down, and that means if for some reason there's a small mistake where something happens, maybe a spider lands on your 200-pound friend and he freaks out and lets go of the trapeze, the mast isn't going to fall down. There we go. All right. All right, back to the live chat. Where are we up to? Spicy Fist is in there. He's made it to a live. Hope you're enjoying the live there, Spicy Fist. Hope you're getting some sailing on your, what is it called? Lazarus the Unholy. Hope it's all good. We have got, I think that must be Constantine on board. And he says hello to everyone. All right, Josh says, we've got a spare Hobie 20. Would love to get you on it for a future 20 North American Championships. Yes, let's do it. I will speak with, let it be known if, I dare say that everybody is watching this, but I'll let it be known to Mike McNear, who was one of the driving forces behind getting me to America for the Hobie 14s and the midwinters, and see if we can do something similar for if the timing was right, to do the Hobie 20s and perhaps another competition as well, in a similar way to what we did the start of April. That would be absolutely magic. All right, we've got Jose on board. Hello, Joe and the Joyriders. Yes, nice to have you with us. All right, Zach's with us. He's a quick join in from work on a lunch break. Smash the like button. Yeah, please do smash that like button. That is very helpful in the promoting this video so that more people see it. All right, Scott says, on last week's video on the Hobie 15, you mentioned that it felt better on starboard tack. Do you find that a case that a boat might have a better feel on one side than the other? Yes. And it will usually come down to main factor on that will be the rudders. So I felt that perhaps on that Hobie 15, it had the cheap rudder blades on it, and having those in the sun all day every day means they might start to inherit a little bit of warping where they bend, and maybe one of those rudders was more bent than the other one. They also, those rudder blades, perhaps there's a bit more of a wider tolerance in the manufacturer, so maybe one of the rudder blades might have been a different year, but it might have actually bent more down the length. So if that's the rudder blade, maybe it was bending more like that, which will change how it feels. So things like that, even with not the EPOs, but even with nice rudder blades, they might bend slightly different amounts, which granted, that's going to be a very slight change to the feel. But it could, if you've got a good finger on it, you might feel the difference. The other thing that might affect it is if one of the holes had water in and the other one didn't. Because when all the water, if you slow down and all the water rushes to the front, boat's going to feel pretty weird, or the opposite, of course. There we go. So I've got quite a few bits to go through still with the live, with the preloaded. So if you have got a burning, if you have got a burning question, by all means put it in the live chat. By all means accompany it with a super sticker. But if it's not burning, I'm going to crack on with the preloaded. So the next one, this is from Leo in Holland, who says sailing on one hull gives less drag. Yes. However, when sailing upwind in light air, it's useless to have the crew on the leeward side and the skipper in the middle to lift a hull. Well, unless you're sailing with the spinnaker up. In my opinion, it does not pay off. Is this because the mast and sail are not completely upright? Yeah, so if you think about it, when the boat starts flying a hull, as well as the boat being over at an angle, the mast is over at an angle. Also, the foils are over at an angle as well. So we're presenting less of everything. So we're presenting less sail to the wind. We're presenting less foil to the water. So you're going to get more power unless you can actually sail fast. Talking foils, dagger boards and rudders, when we're sailing fast, the dagger boards and rudders start generating a lot of lift. So when we heel, we're going to get more lift, which is going to help to drive us up towards the wind. Whereas if we're just deliberately lifting a hull, let's say we've decided to double trapeze on the leeward side to lift the hull, we're not going fast enough to get that lift, which means the boat's just going to slip sideways more and we're going to lose power. The other reason why loading up one side of the boat to encourage the other hull to lift isn't going to work so much, it's not fast, is because we're just going to sink that hull a lot, meaning the fatter part of the hull is going to be into the water, meaning that we're going to increase the amount of drag. Whereas having the hulls evenly in the water, in the light winds, we're going to not be sinking as much drag into the water. So there we go. That's what I believe on that topic. Thanks for the question, Leo. Keep them coming. All right, next one is from David. Don't know where David is. But here we go. Oh, this is about the downhaul. Yes, I get to draw a picture. Great. Yeah, so just to cut a long story short, David has got a Mattia S18. I believe that is an Italian brand. Very nice. Don't understand the Cunningham system. So here we go. This is a bit of a test. Can I remember? So if this is the bottom part of the mast. So this is going to be a kind of copy of the Cunningham system on Bad Boy 94, the Tornado. So what we've got here at the bottom is 3 blocks. I'm drawing them this way because it's easy. We've got cleat, same on this side, block with cleat. And then we've got more. So up here, we've got, I'm going to draw it like this. That's a double block. We've got a double block here. And then we're going higher up. We're going higher because this is the bottom of the sail, like here. And we've got a block on each side of the sail where it eventually goes. All right, so that's what we need. And this is, I would say this is the right system. So let's draw some rope. The rope comes in through the cleat, up to here, down to here, up to here, down, where it changes sides. So the boom would be in the middle here. And then we do the same on this side. Round here, through the cleat. Now that is a pretty good drawing. Thanks. And then you're like, hold on, we've got a bit missing. Yes, we have. So from here, we've got a line going from here round the block, which is in the sail, and then it comes down the mast. And then there's a variety of different ways that could tie off. Maybe your mast's got a cleat on either side, like on a Tiger, you'd have a cleat on the side of the mast where you can actually adjust that. But it just needs to fasten there. On the Bad Boy 94 Tornado, we've actually got a line that goes around the base of the mast, and then that goes up to a ball, and then we have a loop on that rope that goes onto the ball. So it's really easy to release that when we've finished sailing. Nice. Of course, we've got the same going on that side as well. So there we go. That is the system that you want to be aiming for. I think these blocks are all kind of like, what would they be? 22 mil blocks. Yeah. And this rope, the main downhaul rope, I think it's nice to have something fairly meaty to pull. So like a 6 mil rope is nice. There we go. All right, back to the live chat. And we've got Christoph. Hello, Christoph. May I have a question? Yes. Is there a situation where you go downwind and tighten the main sheet with a single-handed, or is it always loosened? Yes, there is one. The situation where you are going downwind with a tight main sheet, traditionally, this is if you're using a spinnaker. Because if you're using a spinnaker, you want the main sheet tight, because it's going to, the way that I don't really want to rub this out because it's such a great pic. It's one of my best ever pictures, I think, but it's going, there we go. Yes, so there's the boat, mast, spinnaker pole, spinnaker, shrouds. There we go. So as we can see on this very advanced diagram, the part of the mast high up where the spinnaker is pulling from is unsupported, which means if we don't add support to that part of the mast, we could break the mast. Just going to fly through this one, I'm afraid, Christoph. So that is why having the main sheet tight on the downwind is important, because that's what's going to support that top part of the mast. Now, in light winds, so when I say light winds, I mean when there's no chance of lifting the hull, it's not important to have the main sheet tight on the downwind course. But once you get to a wind speed which allows you to lift the hull and trapeze, it is important to have the main sheet tight when flying the spinnaker. The other reason we want the main sheet tight is because it helps to flatten the sail. And when we've got the spinnaker up, so here's the wind, the true wind is coming from there, but the spinnaker is such an apparent wind machine that, hold on, I was about to use the wrong color. That would have been a disaster, wouldn't it? So there's the spinnaker. And it's such an apparent wind machine because we're creating our induced wind by going forwards. We're going forwards very quickly because of the spinnaker. So our apparent wind is coming from here. At that point of the boat, it's probably actually coming from here, if there's enough wind to lift the hull. And then when the wind gets curved round by the spinnaker, so when we actually get to the mainsail, it needs to be sheeted in as tightly as when we're going upwind. So that is why we'd have it tight. The other reason why you might tighten the main sheet going downwind is if you want to slow down for some reason. Like we were saying earlier, sheeting in is really going to slow you down. There we go. All right, on to the last preloaded question. This comes from Laura, who I was sailing with in the Hobie 16s in Ocean Springs, Mississippi. And Laura is fitting a trampoline to a Hobie 16. And I haven't actually written out her question, but it was something along the lines of, it's all right for you, very powerful, easy to get tension on trampoline. But for somebody more delicate, it is difficult to get the recommended amount of tension on the trampoline. So what we need to use is some sort of mechanical advantage to help us get tension on the trampoline, because whether you're heavy or light, you need the same amount. The trampoline has to be really tight. So for we're talking Hobie 16, so it's a 3-piece. So for the central part of the trampoline lacing, it really does help if you could get somebody to help. But the thing that's really going to help most getting the central part of the trampoline tight, and we have to be a bit careful here, but we're going to use the main sheet blocks. We're going to stretch them out as far as they'll go, and exactly halfway along the sidebar. This is probably old news to most people, so I have made really quite several videos on this one. But with them spread out as wide as they'll go, there's the rope. We're then going to tie another rope. I usually use the capsize writing line, and that is going to go under around the sidebars. If you want to protect the rubber on your sidebars, use something like a bit of cardboard, some packing material, a towel, and that will just protect the rubber. And then once you've got all that set up, we're going to sheet in the main sheet gently. We want to just see the sidebars start to bend. If you pull it too much, you could actually knacker your boat. Sorry, that wasn't very good English. You could damage your sidebars in quite a bad way. So you need to be a little bit gentle. But then by bending these inwards, it means when you go to tension the middle part of the trampoline, you're not having to actually pull it on very much, because all you're actually doing is taking up the slack, you know, but as much as you can. So then when you release this, the bars are gonna spring outwards, making your trampoline nice and tight. Now, with the lacing at the back, I was going to actually experiment with this on a boat, because I've never actually had to do it myself, but I can see that it would be a very useful thing to do. Is we want to get some leverage somehow, like on a boat where the trampoline laces on the back beam, and we've got these posts on the back beam like this, and the lacing comes up, down, to the trampoline, back round that one, up, down, then what I like to use is a claw hammer. Don't know if that translates. That's a hammer. This hammer's going to be upside down, by the way, where there's the end that we hit things with, and then on the other end we've got that part that is used for pulling out nails, but we actually hook the rope with the claw part of the hammer and put something over the beam to protect your traveler track, and actually lever it to get the tension in the back of the trampoline. It's, as from what I've from everything I've tried, that is the easiest way to get that sort of tension. Just like to say hello to Max, who is right now on the Vasiliki Wildwind Beach. It's great to have Max here with us from Rosenheim, Germany. He is scoring some champagne already, having only been here a couple of days. Very nice. Good stuff, Max, and I'll see you tomorrow, I am sure. Yeah, so using something to get leverage like the claw hammer, which you probably could use on the back of the 16. Now, why do you need two people for the tightening? You need one to pull and then one to stop it from going back through. So to stop the rope from going back through when you move on to the next bit to pull, you could either use some pliers, or what I've been told is doing some pegging to stop the rope going through. So you get a wooden peg and you shove it in the hole to block it so that the rope can't slip through. That is an appropriate method to do it in this. But very important when you're tightening the trampoline is don't have anything resting on it, and especially someone's hand or a knee or a foot or your sails, anything like that. Have nothing on the trampoline. This is actually one of the first things I ever learnt with catamaran sailing. I thought this is ridiculous at the time, but actually it was a good point. Don't have anything on the trampoline. So for the center, you do have to do it from underneath the boat. The other thing that's going to help is if you get the trampoline wet. So really get it wet with a hose pipe, bucket of water, something like that. Because when it's wet, it will stretch more. And then when it dries, it will tighten more. There we go. All great information here on the live Q&A. So that is all. We've got usual Rob. Oh, it's good to have you here as usual, Rob. Great explanation. Thanks very much. If you've enjoyed these answers, then by all means, bang in a super sticker donation to the new camera fund. That's very nice. Don't forget, Tornado World's fundraiser is up and running. So please get stuck in there, and it is gratefully appreciated, very much so. And that is what is going to help to get the great footage from the Worlds. Got the new crew. We went out again today racing, and I'd have to tip my hat to today's race officer, Sam from Canada. Great job, Sam. Always tip your hat to the race officer. Very important. So thanks very much for tuning in, and I will see you soon with some more on Joyrider TV or on the Wildwind Beach now that the wind's blowing again. Thank you very much.